Okay, guys, we're gonna be talking about mobile devices this time. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it because everybody has like smartphones and stuff. Um, so there are several types that you guys need to be aware. There are laptops, there are smartphones, there are tablets, there are phablets, which is like a tablet smartphone, kind of like a Galaxy Note would be a good example of it. We also have the two-in-ones, which is a laptop that can be a tablet, right? Like the Microsoft Surface. That's one of those examples. Some of the unique features you're gonna find in every single one of them is gonna be the battery powered. They have an airplane mode. They have GPS, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and sometimes many other types of wireless technologies under the hood as well. Like for example, NFCs, which is near field communications, and we talked about it in a previous network presentation that we had. This is used typically for like things like Google Pay and stuff. Some other things to keep in mind also, there are some more specialized devices like the smartwatches, like the Apple iWatch. You have the Fitbits, which is also to be could be a smartwatch. It could also be a fitness tracker as well. You have smart glasses, which that was the Google glasses for a little bit there, but it's something that kind of fell off. I don't think they're making them anymore. But basically, what it did, it added some augmented reality things to it. Like you could see an enhanced field of vision. Like you have like recordings going on in the back of the hood and some like UI thing that you could do. But you also have the VR headsets. Those actually fully virtual reality experience, like the Oculus Rift and stuff like that. You have feature phones, which is not a smartphone per se, but it has some features that would be kind of like you could think it's smart, but it's not. It's like like a web browser here and there, but it doesn't have the ability to have all those apps that you can get on a smartphone. You have e-readers, which is uh, those little I think um, like for ebook reading basically or magazines. You have the smart camera, which is digital cameras with network capabilities, GPS, and many others. Some mobile accessories is replace it's memory card. You have docking stations. You can add monitor, keyboard, several other peripherals as well. You have port replicator, which is similar to the docking station. You have the eGPU or external graphics uh, processing unit, which would be like either it's an external box that contains graphics card in there to add that power to a laptop, or you have a box that can be a docking bay for an internal graphics card per se. We still have the same functionality. Right? It's just two types that they have. So basically, what happens is once you add those graphic cards to it, you can turn just a regular, one of those ultrabooks, for example, into a desktop computer essentially as far as graphic power. So you can actually do really high-end gaming with that kind of device, despite you having a computer that's not really up to par. You have keyboards that could be, another accessory for mobile devices. You can plug typically in USB port. Card readers. You also have which you can use for card payments. You have headsets that you can add. A couple things here that you can do is replacement of batteries. Some mobile devices allow you to do that. Some of them don't have that option. Like for example, the iPhone doesn't have an option for you to replace battery, while some of the Android devices do. Laptops you can easily do that as well. something called a power bank, which is a portable battery that connects to a mobile device to give extra juice in case you don't have enough battery. You could have a 12-volt charger, which is a charger that is powered by 12-volt power outlets. So basically, those things that you have in a car. You have the wireless chargers, power over Wi-Fi. You have the cable lock, which is a lock designed for laptops that if they are unattended or in a non-secure place, it consists of a cable that loops around the object and it secures kind of like a bike. You have like those locks. Now, you see those cable locks typically, like if you go to those, like a tech store, like Best Buy or whatever, sometimes you see those there. There is also a case cover that you can add to it. They typically could protect from drops. They can add some resistance. They can make your device kind of waterproof, maybe if it is a phone that cannot be, doesn't have water resistance. Sometimes you have those cases that you can, take it, and so you can take pictures, while I don't know, snorkeling or something. So that is those features as well. So next on the list here, mobile operating systems. They have their own. It's not really built. Whatchamacallit? With the exception of Windows, the very specialized type of operating systems, you have the Android, which is developed by Google. It's an open source type of operating system, which means anyone can get the source code and fork it and make it their own. They can make apps from it. Like, for example, Amazon has the Fire OS, which is really a fork from the Android. It's the same operating system, but not really, because they added some other stuff under the hood. Google also has the Google Chrome OS, which is essentially a browser UI that they added to the Android operating system, which goes without saying is based off Linux. And it's typically the Chrome OS is designed for inexpensive laptop. Now, they also have a couple features that typically in common with other devices as well. Like, for example, the App Store, which in the Android will be the Google Play. Virtual Assistant will be the Google Assistant. Also, Android uses a launcher GUI for the home screen and other components, which is basically a utility that allows you to open all those programs and apps. And that's specifically for the Android itself. However, the virtual assistants and the App Store is something that you're going to find in any mobile device. Also, the iOS is basically the Apple one, right? It's a proprietary, so you need to register to become a developer to make apps for it. It's not as easy to get it as the source code as the Android is, and you're not gonna get the source code of the operating system either. It's just gonna be the framework for which you can develop applications for it, right? So the App Store for the iOS will be the Apple App Store. Virtual assistants will be Siri. Windows also proprietary. It's the only one that is the same OS since they released Windows 8. Is the same software that will be for any platform that they release. So they used to have a Windows Phone, but it's something that kind of faded away. They're not doing that anymore. As a matter of fact, I don't think there is a single mobile device that it has Windows 10 in it, except for their surfaces that they have, which is the phablets version. So the App Store will be Microsoft Store, and Virtual Assistant there will be Cortana. Now, there are some more features here that are common between these OSs besides the App Store and the Virtual Assistant, which would be screen orientation. They have something called accelerometer and gyroscopes, which is basically what allows for you to like flip. Like when you flip the device, you see that the screen flips. Like if let's see you watching a video on YouTube, for example, right? And you're holding it like this, right? And the videos kind of look over here, but when you flip, it's like your phone knows that it happened. And basically that's what those things are, right? So they determine which way the device is being held so they can move accordingly. Screen calibration, some laptops and nearly all smaller devices with touch screens, they have something that allows you to recalibrate the touch screen itself. So if you have any issues, you can go and recalibrate the touch screen. GPS or geo tracking. So basically the piggyback of the mobile satellites. They also piggyback of the cell phone towers, Wi-Fi towers that may be nearby to determine the location, which can be helpful, locating a business that you're looking for, like for example restaurants near me type of search. So that kind of stuff. Wi-Fi calling. This is very beneficial for people that have plans that are not limited, for example, which allows them to continue to use their mobile number, but instead of using their data network through their cell phone provider, they're using their home Wi-Fi to make that phone call instead. The cell phone reception is not as it's also useful if you're in a place that the cell phone reception is not as good. So it can actually help you out with that as well. But I do find sometimes that the Wi-Fi calling is not as good as far as reliability, at least from my personal experience. But it's definitely a cool feature to have in case you are either you have a poor cell phone reception in the area, or if you have a data plan that you're trying to keep those minutes down or something, like you don't have unlimited calling and stuff. Emergency notifications, basically they all have so the mobile providers, they get like Amber alerts, for example, and they will just send to all these mobile users. I'm sure you guys got them before. Mobile payment service. So operating systems will allow you to store your credit card information to use to pay with your mobile device by holding to close proximity, like your Google Pay or your Samsung Pay or Apple Pay and stuff like that. That is what it uses the NFC communication or near field communication to do that for, right? So another thing I wanted to address here, it's highly recommended that you keep the NFC off if you're not effectively paying something, because there can be exploits done to your mobile device that could potentially have you pay for something and you are unaware. Like let's say you keep your phone in your back pocket, somebody can come from behind you and just get some NFC transaction through you, right? So it's highly recommended to keep that beacon of wireless communication off. So if you look at it, for example, on an Android phone, this is what I'm talking about. So you have the NFC field here, like right now it's on. You click it, it's off. So that's one of the things you want to watch out and make sure that if you're not using it, you should keep it off. Mobile device connections. So most mobile devices, they have USB ports, right? I put a list here, right? So you have the micro B, the mini B, they have the type A, the type C. Apple devices, they use a different standard. Right now they use the 8-pin lightning connector. Before it used to be a 30-pin docking connector, like the old iPads and iPhones or whatever, they used to use that device. I mean the connector. Uh, you may also use a USB connector as long as you have an adapter on the other end of the cable that would be like a lightning connector, for example. There is also wireless connections, which may be used for networking, data transfer, charging, and stuff like that. Bluetooth, that's another one. Let's go to the next one. So, mobile settings, you have typically, basically, this is like true for all these devices when it comes to mobile settings. So access, which is basically your quick settings panel, which is the one I just showed you on the Android. You can quickly mute something. You can turn on, turn off the Wi-Fi. You have a settings app, which is the actual full access to the more advanced features. Typically go there to make some more permanent changes, right? Something that you're gonna, okay, I'm gonna set this setting here because this is how I want this to operate all the time, right? Um, you have settings for the actual individual apps as well. Like let's say you're trying to give permissions to one of your applications to do something. Some of the common settings would be wireless communications, like controls for your NFC, your Bluetooth, your Wi-Fi, location, which could be mobile Wi-Fi or GPS stuff. You have the airplane mode, which basically it disables all your wireless transceivers, so like nothing goes in, nothing goes out. You have flashlight, screen orientation, which you can lock in a position, so your gyroscope is not gonna, accelerometers are not gonna switch back and forth. Like you want to keep it upright, and then you turn it like this, and it stays upright. Sound, power savings, sync for contacts, emails with the cloud, which whatever cloud provider you have for that kind of stuff. Settings apps may also give the user some more detailed settings, as we discussed a little bit. Like for example, uh, permission for like phone, like app permissions for notifications, user personalization and accounts and security backups, data time, system updates, and stuff like that. Synchronization. So when talking about synchronization, we're talking about how, like for example, you have contact information that you like to, let's say you have a bunch of Apple devices, right? And you have an iPhone, an iPad, and Mac computer, MacBook Pro, whatever they call it. I'm not a Mac guy, guys. So you have some contact information on it, right? And you have one account with Apple, and you have this sync that happens right between your phone, your MacBook Pro, and your iPad. So all your contacts, every time let's say you add a new contact to your iPhone, you're gonna be able to pull them from the computer, and you're also gonna be able to pull them from the iPad. So this is basically how it happens, right? So this would be a sync that will happen in the cloud, but it could also be from device to device. It could also be to your cars. Like you could sync via Bluetooth to your cars. Your cars basically, once you establish a connection, your vehicle will pull your contacts list, for example. Some other things that may have sync things that you can have going on would be like a program data. Let's say you have an application, and this application typically has a database somewhere, so you sync that with whatever database they have every time you connect. You can have apps installed on the App Store, for example, on your iPhone, and then the same apps will sync up and install on your tablet devices as well. right? Emails, that's a easy one. That includes calendar as well. Pictures, music, documents, browse information, your bookmarks, passwords can be synced as well. Whether you use proprietary password manager like um, 1Password or LastPass, or if you use through your browser, use Google Chrome Password Manager, which it's okay. I don't recommend it. You guys use the browser one. I always recommend you guys get some proprietary. It's always better. But that is also that sync. Location, social media data also syncs. So those are things to keep in mind when it comes to synchronization. On a typical Android device, you can tap Accounts, Backup, and Restore in the Settings app, and you can configure the cloud synchronization or transfer settings to a new device. So here are the steps. Backup my data, must be on the device to synchronize. The backup account settings displays on a Google account used to store your backup and synchronization data. If the automated restore is on when you reinstall an app you've uninstalled in the past, the device will automatically restore backed up settings and for settings and for the app. On the picture phone, you can tap the Open Smart Switch and you can transfer items directly from the old phone to the new one. And it's pretty smooth. I used that one before and it's pretty reliable. Exactly how you configure depends on the account. Exactly how you configure the accounts depends on your device, but in most Android versions, click Accounts. In the Settings apps, you tap Account, View, Change, and synchronization settings. To synchronize the account, you open, you tap More, and then there's an account sync button there, and then you add the new account. You tap Add Account, and to remove accounts, pretty much the same procedure. It's just gonna remove account instead. Email account sync. Basically configure the email accounts on the mobile device. It really depends, honestly, even though the book kind of put the steps in, but it really depends on the application that you have. The main important things that you need to remember here, though, is what kind of protocols you're using, right? Are you using IMAP? IMAP is the type of protocol for emails that will keep the information both in your device as well as on the cloud, right? So as you can see here, it allows you to download messages from to your clients for offline browsing, but the messages are really in the cloud, right? Or on the email server per se, right? So if you delete something locally, you may not delete right away there. Also, POP3 is different. POP3 basically just downloads everything, and everything that happens locally, it stays locally. And everything that was on the server is then deleted. So you just keep everything local. You have MAPI, which is like IMAP, but is for Microsoft Exchange accounts. You store messages on a server by default, allowing you to synchronize with multiple different clients. So here are some steps for you to connect to an ISP email server. The main things you need to do is, gather the required information, open the device email settings, and you need to make sure that you're following the wizard properly. And one of the things to keep in mind is make sure that you select the right email provider. If it is Google, you select Gmail, Yahoo, Mail. You have Outlook and Exchange. Those will be kind of configured a little bit the same, but look at the documentation, right? For example, if it is an Office 365 account, you need to go and your research and be like, hey, you go to the Microsoft website and you look to see how you put in the server settings, for example. Like they all have a field. If you look, let me just go here real quick. So if you go configure Office 365 on Android, now just throw an image here so you guys can see it. Like for example, when you set up the account, your server is going to be something like this. If it was an Exchange server, the server will be something else that you keep internally. So these are the things you need to keep in mind when you configure these things. Right? It's the process itself is just a wizard. It's pretty easy to follow, but you know, this is basically out of the book, so you guys can prep for the exam. More a little bit on emails. He also goes over the iCloud, the differences between basically sign up for the online account, and then you know he has on the Android device, use email settings, and you create a new account, and so on and so forth. Also to configure encryption for digital signatures using S-MIME. You obtain a certificate from a certificate authority for the company. Typically, you should be able to get these from whoever is providing you those credentials in the first place for encryption. There should be documentation on it and how to obtain the certificate. So, but it's very, like if you want to do encryption and digital signatures for your email, you need to make sure that you're going to have the certificate from the email provider. And I mean, this is kind of self-explanatory here. So you import the certificate into the device and in security settings, email settings, and you designate the certificate to be used for the email. And then you complete the certificate's installation. Super simple. Just so you guys have an idea here, let's just go to this guy here. Yeah. Google Chrome. And there should be a place here for certificates. I believe maybe here. Yeah, see, manage certificates. So, like if I was doing this in a browser, it would be once I got the certificate from, you know, a certificate authority, it would be import, next, and then, you know, I'll pick a certificate, right? Which I don't have anything here to put, but if I had, I'll just, you'll be one of the CRT, probably a CRT or a CRER file, and I just click next again, which I don't have a file, and then I'll basically be trusting the certificate locally, right? So it's kind of like the same procedure for, but it's to allow you to have encryption and digital certificates going on. This allows you for a concept that we call in security called no repudiation. Basically, you will not be able to say you didn't send an email to somebody, right? That's basically what that is, because you signed electronically once you use a certificate, the email. Cellular networking. To activate a device, to use a cellular provider, you need to find something on your device called the International Mobile Equipment Identification Number. Every device has that, and that's basically a way for manufacturers to be able to track if a device was stolen or something like that, or if the FBI is trying to find somebody and they have a, you know how that goes. You can find the IMEI in a few ways. Dial, what is it? Asterisk number, asterisk pound, 06 pound. It's one way. You can check the device's back of the SIM, or the device's back or the SIM tray. You can, on the iOS, you can click settings and go into about, and you can find it. On the Android, is settings, about status, right? To connect to the cellular network, you verify that your device it has an inserted SIM card and is enrolled with a mobile provider. You turn on the device. If the device doesn't automatically connect to the cellular network, then you follow the next step, which will be to open the device settings, access the networking settings, choose the option to join the cellular network, whichever data plan you picked, and you enter the password or the credentials if necessary, or even though it's not listed there, you may have to contact the customer support to have that done for you. Connected to wireless network. This is pretty self-explanatory here. Basically, you turn on the Wi-Fi, you're gonna see a bunch of lists of wireless hotspots that near you, and you're just gonna click on the one that you're supposed to connect to, and may have to put a passphrase. I expect that you have to put a passphrase because if the network doesn't have that, then it's an unsecure network. I honestly don't trust it. Uh, so, and if your home network doesn't have a password, that means that people could be accessing your internet for free. So be careful there. So you can another way is if you're like in a place like Target and you're trying to connect to the Wi-Fi, you may be taken to they call a captive portal, which will be like a web page that you need to do a sign in, and that's basically the only difference. Another thing is if in your data plan you have a hotspot, typically sometimes you have like a gig or 2 gigs or whatever. You should be able on the same networking settings of your device. There should be an option there for you to open a personal hotspot. There you should be able to set an identification number for your device. So and it's probably going to be your device's name, generic there, but you can change that to something else. Maybe like your name plus Wi-Fi or whatever. Like a friend of mine likes to have a FBI van. He likes putting that in his hotspot, so you know how it is. People being silly. So you enter the necessary information there to set up your settings, which should be something like setting up a password for it, for example. That should be one of the things. And once that's done, other devices could essentially connect to your Wi-Fi. Another thing that you can do here is if you connect your device to your home Wi-Fi, for example, you could essentially set up a hotspot for the Wi-Fi. So this wouldn't impact your data. People, instead of connecting to your home router, they'll be connecting through your phone, for example, right? But they'll be using your wireless connection. Your phone is just going to be doing the routing. So that's another way to do it as well. Connecting to a Bluetooth network, you enable the Bluetooth for pairing. You open a device, you find the device that you're trying to connect. Typically, you're going to have to make yourself available for discovery. So the new device you're trying to get in can find you. If not, you're not going to be able to, pair. Once that first pairing is made, you don't need to be in discovery anymore. Your device is going to recognize the device that's trying to connect before because they're already paired. Sometimes that is a PIN code that you need to put on the device to make the connection. For vehicles, definitely there is a PIN code there. I do not recommend that you keep the default PIN code as well for security purposes. Some of the devices that you may be connecting would be like a keyboard, it could be a mouse, it could be a speaker, it could be several things. Setting up VPN access. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. Typically, you use this for connecting to your office remotely. What this does is it creates an IPsec tunnel between your location and your office, for example, that is encrypted through and through. End-to-end encryption, we call it. You can use a mobile device for that type of connection. Typically, you go into a device general settings and the networking, and there should be an option there for VPN options. And basically, you just add a connection. Should be like a little wizard there. The main point is that you need to have the VPN server address. So your, let's see, your employer like would like you to connect to their VPN. He should be able to provide you with the server address, which would be like, for example, vpn.business.com, that type of server address. It's kind of like a domain name. If you guys remember from the Windows lab that we did, you have the host name, you have the domain, and you have the dot whatever, right? PRI, PRL, or baseband updates. So these are different types of updates that are released to mobile devices. So there are three types. You have the product release instruction, which is the PRI. It contains settings for the device that relate to the cellular network that it's on. You have the preferred roaming list, which contains settings that enable your device to connect to specific cell towers when it's roaming. And you have the baseband or radio firmware interchange, which is an interchangeable name for components of the wireless device that actually converts the radio to the binary data. Installing a new desktop operating system on a laptop or x86 tablet. So it's kind of like doing a firmware update because these devices don't have like a CD drive or a USB port to go in. Typically, you're gonna have to you're basically gonna flash it, right? It works a lot like if it is Windows, for example, it works a lot like whatchamacallit, a BIOS flashing type of updates. And essentially that's how it happens, right? But you need to get away, and when the device boots, is going to be on boot time. It's basically going to flash it just like if it was a BIOS or UEFI system. Keep in mind that you need to be fully charged or have enough charge to proceed with the entire duration of the update, plus some slack. Typically, the operating system is not going to allow itself to be installed if you don't have those settings. Also, it is even better to be plugged to the outlets while conducting those, because you do not want to lose power while installing an operating system in those devices. Anything, and if every time you're dealing with firmware, you need to keep in mind that if you lose power or if the device battery goes dead, you will not be able to use that device again. Mobile operating systems installations typically use pre-configured packages instead of a specific hardware model with hardware drivers included. Intended to a specific hardware model, and the hardware drives included. On a working device, a factory set can provide a blank slate for new users and applications. Using the recovery environment, you can load a new operating system image from a PC via USB. A typical reason, and a very interesting one, is there are other flavors that you could add to your mobile device. For example, that is a Kali Linux version for mobile called NetHunter, which is basically the same process here. Like, you totally replace the operating system that you have, if you have an Android device, with the NetHunter operating system instead. And this is the same procedure. Of course, you need to make sure that the firmware is loaded with drivers that will support your hardware. Just like it says here, everything needs to be, so the packages are intended to be specific for your hardware model, and your hardware drivers need to be included for you to be able to use those. So you ensure that you have the firmware image for your specific model and hardware revision. I actually had to do this one time for I believe my mobile device didn't have the right operating system, and I was able to get a download image of the firmware from the manufacturer, which was an updated version that never got pushed to my device, and I was able to manually push it and get it updated. So it was pretty cool to do that. Another thing is you to have network connectivity ready ahead of time. For any device, you can't just plug into an open Ethernet network. For Wi-Fi, make sure that you have the range, you are in range and you have valid credentials. For cellular networks, make sure you have enrolled your device and installed the SIM card. And if you're using MDM, or certificate-based networking connection, make sure that you know the enrollment process for the network. Once your operating system is installed, and if you're a new device, and if it's a new device, you need to perform an account setup. If you join the Active Directory, there'll be a domain, enroll in the MDM system. Account management, which is controlled by the network administrator. For individuals, individual administrator devices, you can just create a new account and plug in information in there. If you have an existing account, you should have credentials. You could just log in. Otherwise, you have to create a new one. Individual applications may have account settings independent from the user account, so keep that in mind. After the account setup, you can do the install necessary. You can install necessary applications and data on the device. System images will need to have some bundle applications already. We typically have some bundle applications already. A lot of them is going to be proprietary though. MDM software can install and configure applications for you. When configuring personal devices for use with the existing account, you can log into your App Store and a web to view all the applications and remotely install them on your device. When you sign into an existing account, you can use cloud synchronization to get the stuff loaded, such as settings and data from that you already have stored in the cloud. Apple Quick Start or Android Tap and Go allow you to transfer account settings, data, and apps from old devices to new devices using NFC or Wi-Fi. Don't forget the configuring applications and operating systems features. Examine the performance and security settings of new applications and versions. Review settings of old applications on a new device to make sure that the permissions and configurations are still appropriate, and uninstall applications that you do not need. Mobile operating system and application issues. So there are a few things here to keep in mind. Application errors. You can have a variety of causes. Their message may give you other details, but you'll probably need root access to see the full application log. Slow performance, device overheating, it could be device overheating, it could be lack of sufficient storage, it could be too many apps running at one time. No power or battery not charging, could be unplugged, maybe you didn't plug it right. It could be a defective AC adapter, you could be wet the device, or you could be damage on the charging port itself. Battery life, short battery life, brightness settings may be set too high. You could have too many apps and services running at one time. You might want to check. Swollen battery, battery wear and defects causing gas buildup within the cell. Fix for that, replace battery, obviously. overheating, improper ventilation, excessive processor use, or too many apps running at one time. Frozen system could be lack of sufficient storage, it could be too many applications running. System lockout, secure response to fail logon attempts, basically. Mobile operating system and application issues. Continued. Unable to decrypt email, mobile passwords. This is a certificate problem. Most likely you don't have the public certificate if you are receiving end. And if you're on the sending end, most likely you don't have your digital signature properly set. So basically you have to fix the certificate, right? Maybe the certificate had expired, right? There's another problem, right? So to fix this issue, you launch the mobile application and you verify the SMIME is installed. Or if you have any issues with a certificate, contact the provider so you can get a new certificate. Mobile operating system and application issues. Continued. So troubleshooting device, a mobile device. If you're experiencing issues with your mobile device, follow the following steps to solve it. When something isn't working right, it's possible that a necessary feature that has been disabled by mistake. Features such as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, sound, and so on, they may be toggled on that quick setting thing options that you may have. Or if it is a laptop, it could be a function key that you clicked and disabled it. So make sure that you check that. Numlock and caps lock are easy to toggle. Compact laptop keyboard. Numlock in particular can change keyboard functions. When you are sure that the features you need are enabled, you can look into other causes, but always check these first. Many features and applications require network connectivity, so ensure that you have services enabled, that you are receiving strong signal. For cellular networks, make sure that you have your device SIM card enrolled with the provider. If Wi-Fi network requires a sign-in, make sure that you have credentials and that they are validated. Wi-Fi hotspot, especially public ones, may still have lower performance, so sometimes that's the issue. Sometimes is a firewall that's blocking stuff. Like you have, because you're on a public network, maybe you are blocking some stuff that is keeping some functionality from happening. Make sure that also Bluetooth accessories are paired and turned on. Make sure that you don't have other devices that use that Bluetooth device with that are competing for attention. For example, right now I have 3 devices in this table that use my earbuds, and I have to do always a connect and a reconnect every time I change devices to make sure that it's paired properly. So that's another thing that you can look into your Bluetooth devices. Many mobile devices use assisted GPS to determine the location more quickly and precisely. Many issues with low performance, stuck applications, or non-functioning features can be solved by resetting the device. Simply powering down and doing a restart on the device can solve a lot of problems. Another note there is recommended that you do that at least once every 7 days to keep things running smoothly. Look into the settings menu for the reset settings options. Or similar options in there to return your operating system to system defaults if you really having a lot of issues and you're trying to start fresh. To reset network settings, you can fix network connectivity issues, but you need to reconfigure your network settings after. So what this would do is basically wipe out the passcodes that you have for your Wi-Fi, right? So you obviously gonna need to input that again. When you have problems with a specific application, you can either repair, you can remove it. You can force stop uh, and prevent the unruly application from causing system problems. Update the app if it is old. Sometimes updating the app does wonders for it. Cleaning application cache, deleting some application files may cause loss of the application though. So you want to really kind of make sure you know what you're doing before you start deleting stuff. But cleaning the cache usually there's not a problem there. Um, Uninstalling and reinstalling the application can also fix many problems. Complete internet search for a resolution to your specific problem could also go a long way. A hard reset on your device may also solve a lot of problems when all else fails. A hard reset most useful in problems that have to do with touch screens, navigation screens, problems powering on the device, and stuff. Typically, you should be able to do a restart, right? So if you really like trying to move things around and nothing's happening, that's when you do a hard reset. Uh, Look up hard reset instructions for your specific device. You may have to Google that. Typically, it's not that hard. It's something probably like holding the same button for a extended period of time. You should reboot it. Uh, Recovery environments can provide varying solutions, including cache clearing and factory settings resets. Troubleshooting blank laptop display. If you have a blank laptop display or you don't immediately suspect that the device is broken, there are several things that you should check first. Verify that the laptop set to the internal monitor by scrolling through the display modes using your function keys, for example. Test your graphic card by plugging an external monitor to see if you can get an image from. Maybe you have a blank screen, but as soon as you add an external monitor, you start seeing things. Maybe it's just a setting you need to mess with. Maybe it's your display that's bad. So switch the display mode to the external device using the F and function keys. Maybe it's stuck on that, right? That is a function key that disables your monitor and enables just the external to work. So instead of you having a dual screen thing or a mirror screen thing, you have a blank screen and you have your external. So it could be that you need to re-enable your internal monitor for your laptop. If you suspect that there is a graphics card problem, prior to replacing the card, open up your laptop case and make sure that none of the connections are loose, because it could also be maybe you drop your laptop and something broke off. You may have to do some soldering. Mobile device hardware components. The system board itself is customized for the laptop and generally includes an integrated CPU, graphics hardware, and many external connectors. Typically, the only things that are like upgradable on a laptop are, aside from any peripherals they may have, it's memory and the hard drive. You shouldn't be able to have anything in the motherboard that it detaches, right? Everything should be soldered in. All the components will be found in the lid of the laptop, which is disassembled, and the entirely in the entirety of the process, of the separate, and is an entirely separate process. Primarily, this would be the LCD OLED display, along with supporting components like power inverter or LCD backlights. So yes, your monitor is not attached to your laptop, but you know, other than that, you shouldn't have anything else to replace. Then the monitor is only going to replace if it breaks it anyways, and you need to get one that matches your specific brand of laptops. You can just go online and randomly pick some laptop monitor and stick it on your device. It's not going to work. Two-in-one laptop will have most or all of its computing components in one piece as the screen, and they will need it be even thinner and tightly packed. Tablet or smartphone might have something inside that can be replaced without soldering iron, or at least. Uh, I mean, nothing inside that can be replaced. Sorry, excuse me about that. So, yes, if you ever had a chance to open one of these guys here, the only thing that you can do here is the SD card and the SIM card. That's it. Like everything else, besides the battery, everything else is soldered in. You know, it's replaceable, it's fixable, a lot of it, but you know, it needs to be only replaced. You cannot like do hardware upgrades on a mobile device, on a smartphone or tablet. That doesn't happen. Hardware. Preparing a laptop for laptop means verify that the maintenance task is physically practical, and that you have the skill level for it. Make sure that the component is replaceable, that you have a compatible part as well. Consider device documentation and online walkthrough for the specific hardware model. Ensure that all the necessary tools for the test, like tweezers or manipulators or anything else that you may need, it's available. Because once you start opening, cranking up the device to do some stuff like that, let's see, you're trying to replace a screen and you don't have all your tools you need, man, it's gonna be very painful. So make sure you have everything. Also, make sure that this will not void the device's warranty, because if the device is under warranty, you should be sending that to the manufacturer, not opening the device and doing it. Mobile device hardware components continued here. If you're replacing a device with a different model, make sure that you have the necessary drivers and updates installed. Make sure that the device is powered off, not just asleep. Open the chassis if it's a chassis or components. Disconnect the power supply from the laptop. If the battery can be disconnected from the outside, it's also recommended that you do so. Even once power is disconnected, sometimes you still hold some powers, and you still need to do take the precautions for electrostatic discharge as well, because this applies to any electronic components that you're dealing with. You should be watching out for that. If you open or disassemble the device, make sure that you keep all the parts in order. Make sure that you are very methodical with the stuff, because missing screw could be the end of putting the device together. So make sure that you have everything. So all the components that you're removing layer by layer. Sometimes there are different layers of screws, and you make sure they have everything organized. When the components are clipped and glued into place, take care disengaging them, because it's very easy for you to put some force in there once you meet resistance and breaking something. So making sure that you take your time, patience, do it slowly. Take photos of components before removing them, so you know how to go back together, right? And if there is a YouTube video for a specific device that somebody already did the do-it-yourself type of maintenance, make sure you watch that. It's it's knowledge being passed. So make sure you look into that. Installing express cards. Express cards expansion interface is hot swappable, so you don't need to turn off the device or anything like that. You just install any software or drivers that came with the express card, remove the cover of the express card slot, and slide the express card inside. Once it locks it, make sure that the desired feature changes using the software. To make any desired feature change using the software. Installing RAM on a laptop. Frequently, there is a compartment in the bottom that has a few screws in. But some models you may actually need to remove the entire bottom cover. But typically, you power down the computer, you disconnect from the power cord, you find the memory components, and don't forget to protect from electrostatic discharge. So anyways, find and open the memory compartments. If necessary, open the laptop case. If you remove an existing module, gently press the metal pieces to each side so they unlatch. They are much more sensitive than a desktop computer is, so keep that in mind. Uh, with the new module facing the correct direction, same one that the previous one was, use firm and even pressure to snap the memories into the memory slot. Repeat for additional memory modules. Close the secure the memory compartment or close the laptop case. Replace the battery and plug the power cord back on the wallet and boot up the laptop to make sure that the system recognizes the new memory. Replacing laptop system board. The following are the general steps. So you power down, make sure that you are protecting yourself for electrostatic discharge, with a wristband or stuff. Remove all the items and easily accessible via external compartments. Remove all the screws from the bottom of the case. Open the case. Be mindful of the clips and glue that you might, have in the way. Remove and disconnect all components blocking full access to the motherboard. Begin with the battery. If possible, disconnect any wires and cards that are connected to the motherboard. Remove the motherboard mounting screws. Remove old motherboards, then use the mounting screws to mount the new motherboard in place. Carefully perform each deassemble step in reverse. And remember, the tip of taking pictures and stuff, so make sure that you're putting everything back together as it was. Replacing a laptop display. Power down the computer, remove the plastic bezel. Make sure that you also protect yourself from electrostatic discharge. I cannot stress this enough. Look and remove screws holding the screen of the laptop lid. Gently pry the screen from the metal cradle out slightly from the case lid. Look and remove anything securing the screen and the metal cradle. Gently place the detached screen face down and the keyboard on the keyboard and disconnect the device cable from the graphics card. Remove the screen, gently place the new screen in the metal cradle and secure them together. Repeat all the disassemble steps in reverse, starting with replacing the screen in the lid, and then power on the device to test your new display. Replacing external PCIe cards. So before beginning, make sure that your card is physically compatible with the computer and it has the drivers for your operating system. Cards of full height and half height. You cannot install a full height card in a slot only size for a half height device. Some cards may have additional connectors such as wireless antennas or display connectors. mSATA SSDs use a form factor that is identical to the mini PCIe, but isn't compatible. So power down after you roll all those things out. Now you can power down and unplug the computer. Locate the mini PCIe card that you want to replace. Wireless adapters may be accessible from the external panel, while others will require you to open the chassis. Mini PCIe graphics cards will generally be underneath the cooling system, require even more disassembly. Detach any wires connected to the card, not in locations. Excuse me. Noting locations for later reassembly. For wireless cards, gently pry the antenna leads from the terminals with the small flathead screwdriver. For other cards, carefully unclip and carefully remove the data connectors. If the card is secured with screws or clips, remove them. Gently slide the card out of the mini PCIe slot. Um, Slide the new card into the slot. Repeat in this assembly process in reverse, beginning securing the screws and wires to the card. Power on the device and install the drivers and test for functionality. Mobile device hardware components continuing. So replacing laptop keyboards and touchpads. So we'll go through the power down process, unplug all the cables, remove battery, remove the bottom keyboard screw, turn on the keyboard on the right side up, open the notebook so that the display is up. Access the keyboard screws and remove the screws holding the keyboard and the touchpad or touchpad in the case. Gently lift the keyboard and that you want to replace up. Unplug the keyboard from the touchpad ribbon cable. On the motherboard, remove the device and plug the new ribbon cable into the motherboard. Set the new device in place, repeat all the disassembly process in reverse, and reassemble the laptop. If the laptop has a keyboard bezel, unsnap and remove it. If the laptop has one, remove and the trim piece between the keyboard and the screen. Replacing laptop components. The general process of replacing any specific components, you basically disassemble the device until the component itself is fully accessible. You disconnect all cables, you remove the screw and retaining clips, remove the device, install the new device, and follow the disassembly process in reverse. You power the computer and test the functions. So basically, if you looked at all the examples we show, if you kind of follow this A through F here, it's kind of like the gist of it, right? When replacing laptop cooler heatsink, remember to connect the fan cables and apply fresh thermal compound to the CPU. Is the same process that we do on a desktop. So you need to make sure that you follow those to the T. If the laptop allows you to replace its CPU, update the BIOS UEFI to a version that supports the new CPU model also. Disassemble your laptop until the CPU itself is fully exposed. Unlock the CPU. This may require a lever, screwdriver, or the tool. Remove the CPU. Carefully align the new CPU before replacing and locking it. Apply a small amount of thermal compound before reassembly. Internal cables may use proprietary format or common standards, so consult documentation before replacing one of them. Even if a cable is electrical compatible with another standard, given model, it may have some custom connectors. Cable lengths may typically be exactly what your model needs to bridge the gap between two components. SATA laptop cables typically use both data and power and plug into both connectors on the drive itself. Internal laptop cables and their connectors tend to be small and delicate, so they are very easy to break if you're careless. Do not pull, force, or kink connectors and cables. Check connectors and latches or clips before disconnecting them. 1.8 or 2.5 inches and optical drives may be mounted directly into the case or placed into a caddy itself, to a caddy which itself is placed into the case. The drive bay or caddy may have screws or retaining clips that hold the drive in. Sliding the drive into place might automatically plug it in. When removing the drive, gently disconnect the rainbow cable to prevent damage. Remove optical discs before removing the drive. It's very important. Smart card readers may be mounted into the express card devices or in cases similar to drive bays, but with different cables. Use the corresponding process to replace them as well. M2 SSDs and wireless cards are mounted directly into a slot on the motherboard and secured with a single retaining screw. M2 modules can have a variety of lengths and widths. Sockets and devices are both keyed with what you, for example, cannot use an SSD in a wireless port and vice versa. NVMe drives will not work on the slots only for support of SATA. To replace devices facing outer surface of the computer, you may need to disassemble the case near it to access any screws and clips. Keyboard and touchpad, speaker and microphone, webcam, damaged bezels or frame components. And this is it for mobile, and we'll see you next time.